evening. It's 6 o'clock on Friday the 15th of September 2017. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, bringing you the day's national top stories translated into English 6 days a week. For the first time since his appointment as President of the Republic, Ilir Meta held a meeting with the High Council of Justice. Once the session, which was being held behind closed doors, had concluded, Mr. Meta said that the High Council of Justice will give the necessary help for the success of the vetting process. The willingness of the High Council of Justice for the creation of the new constitutional institutions is at a maximum, especially regarding the framework of implementation for judicial reform, including the vetting process. They have also committed their maximum efforts in order to face the challenges of the current judicial system, which will have its own unique difficulties in transitioning to a completely new system, declared Meta. The chair of the Union of Judges, Gerd Hoxha, also commented in a similar vision to that of the President, expressing readiness to help for the preparation of the necessary legal acts, which will regulate the modalities for the re-evaluation of judges. With the creation of the Supreme Judicial Council, an institution which is predicted in the package of the judicial reform, the High Council of Justice will cease existing. Also, another topic of discussion in the meeting was filling the vacancies in Albanian courts in order not to block work and to provide for the normal continuation of judicial processes. The report on domestic violence cases and defence orders issued by courts were another point of discussion. The Democratic Party's chairmanship gathered today, headed by the DP chairman, Lulzim Basha. The DP chairmanship decided to file a request to Parliament on Monday, asking for the establishment of an ad hoc commission for electoral reform. According to the vice chairman of the Democratic Party, the electoral reform will focus on eliminating vote buying and manipulation of votes, as well as the introduction of electronic vote counting. The Democrats have also decided to call some ministers to session in order to give detailed information regarding the restructuring of the ministries. During the meeting, the DP chairman asked for Democratic members of Parliament to not consider their work as part-time jobs and to fully commit in order to increase efficiency and strengthen the actions of the opposition. The DP chairman is also expected to communicate this order at the meeting of the Democratic Party's parliamentary group. Mr. Basha highlighted that the Democrat MPs will be engaged in service to the citizens every day. For this reason, there will be a weekly agenda of providing for MPs to meet with members of their electoral areas. On the first day of work, the Minister of Infrastructure and Energy, Damianjik Nouri, has suspended the exercise of checks on heavy vehicles, transport vehicles and buses from the General Directorate of Road Transport Services and its dependent structures. The suspension of the checks will remain in place until the restructuring of this institution and the adoption of the necessary changes to the regulation of the road code. The General Directorate of Road Transport Services and its subordinate structures are responsible for the implementation of this order. According to the Minister's letter, the suspension of controls is also due to the fact that it poses a risk not only to the life and health of drivers, but also for road controllers. The suspension of what is known as the grey police is also due to the fact that there is often an overlap with the control exercised by other bodies, such as the Road Police Service and the tax authorities. The confusion brings disturbances and obstacles to the work of transport operators and allows for abuses and violation of road safety. The Grey Police's duty was to control heavy vehicles carrying goods and passengers. The State Police and prosecution continue with their operations throughout the country to seize the properties bought with money coming from criminal activities. Today, the State Police seized an apartment in Tirane and cash to the amount of 15 million lek in Elbasan. The request to seize the apartment came from the prosecution of Corbin. The owner of the apartment was arrested in Spain for theft and money laundering. According to the prosecution, the request was made based on information police received from the Spanish authorities. Following some investigative actions, the prosecution discovered 3 contracts for the sale of 3 apartments to an amount of €130,000. Police have managed to find only 1 apartment, while the other 2 contracts are for apartments in construction by a construction company that has gone bankrupt. It has been learned that the prosecution launched the investigation into this case back in March of 2017. Meanwhile, police in Elbasan seized 15 million lek and arrested 2 people for money laundering. The Democratic Party chairman, Lulzim Basha, met today with the Vice Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Kosovo, who is on a two-day visit to Tirane. According to an announcement from the Democratic Party's press office, Mr Basha assured Kosovo's Prime Minister that the DP will support and collaborate with Kosovo's new government. The DP chairman made a summary of the political developments in Albania, emphasising the vital need for stability and the guarantee of a European future for the country, highlighting free and fair elections as crucial. The DP chairman stressed that European integration and the national interest will be the main pillars of any stance made by his party. Furthermore, the Democratic Party chairman added that he supports and encourages deeper integration between Albania and Kosovo. In this context, he welcomes the will for the union of customs, but stressed that this can only be done through a deep, complete agreement and not superficial engagement. At the end of the meeting with Kosovo's Vice Prime Minister, the Democratic leader stressed that the party will support, in any capacity, the diplomacy of Kosovo with its challenges of membership in international bodies. During the visit to Tirane, the Vice Prime Minister of Kosovo held meetings with President Meta, Prime Minister Edi Rama, Foreign Minister Bushati, and also with the former Prime Minister Sali Berisha. The European Union's Enlargement Commissioner, Johannes Hahn, met with the Serbian Prime Minister today during his visit to Belgrade. The EU Commissioner and Serbian Prime Minister discussed the dialogue with Kosovo, Serbia's integration into the European Union, and the situation in the Western Balkans. Hahn said that Brussels does not want to take problems with Kosovo into the EU and reiterated that normalisation of relations with Pristina directly affects Serbia's further progress with European integration. Enlargement is largely based on the merits of each candidate. You keep the keys to the EU, but the EU must see an irreversible, stable relationship with Pristina before its final entry into the EU. We do not want to take this issue through the small door to the EU, said Hahn. The EU Commissioner urged Serbia and its neighbours to stay on course towards membership in the European Union. For too long, Serbia and the so-called Western Balkans have been seen as the backyard of Europe, Johannes Hahn said. Today, people see that this region is already an enclave in the EU with the legitimate right to join, said Hahn. Serbia's foreign minister also met with the EU Commissioner. They exchanged views on current issues in relations between Serbia and the European Union. The framework of action plans for chapters 23 and 24 in the negotiations, which covers topics in the domain of strengthening democracy and the rule of law, were the particular focus of the meeting. The officials also discussed the next step in the negotiations on Serbia's EU membership on the opening of the new chapters by the end of 2017, as well as on the future dialogue regarding the normalisation of relations with Pristina. That's all for our English edition this evening. My name is Alexandra. Please join me again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. On behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.